I'm going to move on to public. We have a lot of people, I'm sure, that want to speak.
All right.
Yes.
Sam Foster, 108 Eagle Drive. I have a quick question. I don't know who to just address this to, but I had a question about the complex there. 175 Chambers Bridge Road, that's also the same complex at the Conway Building at 165. Am I correct, or is that further? It's the same entranceway?
Same entranceway, yes, different buildings.
Yeah, okay, so I just had a question because I work for Pizza Hut and Papa John's, and I delivered there a lot. Is the arrangement that we have with that building true of all of the sites there? In other words, that the township owns the land, but the buildings are owned by someone else?
No, the other properties are owned by the Brick Township Housing Authority.
Okay, that's what I asked you, because I know we do appoint a housing authority director to oversee that. So the housing director has no authority over 175?
Correct.
Correct? Okay, thank you, that's all I want to know.
Next? Yes.
Nan Carl, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard, and my head is swimming with confusion about this, and I don't think it's appropriate to limit the time you're going to take to tell us, we, the people, the answers, and I see the clock going. That's totally inappropriate. There should have been a special meeting just to discuss this with us. There are so many points we don't know. I'm confused now. At this moment, and through the chair to the attorney, you're saying the township owns the land.
Correct.
And for that, but U.S. Homes owns the building?
Homes Now, correct.
Homes Now, rather. Sorry, U.S. Homes is mine. God help me. Homes Now, Inc. owns the building. They built it, they own it,
Correct.
but not the land that it sits on.
That is correct.
And U.S. Homes tenders to the township some type of money? The land, the taxes are, you say, actually waived for $1 a year.
The rental amount, the lease amount, is $1 per year
For the land.
for the land. That is correct. It is a tax-exempt project. There are not taxes paid on that project.
On any unit there are no taxes paid.
That is correct.
And Homes Now, at this moment, actually has been maintaining the building and units?
Homes Now has been, they have entered into a contract with National Church Residences that's actually managing the units. So Homes Now owns them now. They managed them for a while, and now they have turned over the management to NCR.
That's where I got confused when you were speaking about who owns what and about who's maintaining it. At one point, you made me understand that NCR has been maintaining it for, I don't know, a year, 20 years, since 1996.
I don't know the
Very
time.
unclear.
For several years, but just to be clear, maybe I misspoke, but NCR does not own anything right
No.
now. They are purely
Maintaining,
maintaining
that
under...
they are the property maintenance
Yes,
entity
correct.
that Homes Now, Inc. contracted to maintain the buildings
That
and
is-
units
That is correct.
there. And how long has Homes
I
Now, Inc. had that arrangement with NCR?
I actually don't know. I think maybe either Homes Now or NCR. 15 years. Thank you.
That would put us in the 2000s when NCR took over. Is that correct? Because I'm not in the
Sounds like around 2003.
state of mind to be
yes.
doing math tonight.
Right.
So they came into the picture then. Now, Homes Now, Inc. is looking to sell them the building? Is that what's happening?
That is exactly correct.
Instead of having them as the property manager?
Exactly correct.
So they're looking to sell the building,
Yes,
and in conjunction with that, we are looking to sell them the land for the
Correct.
1 million whatever.
you got it exactly. That's right.
But they're not really going to own it. If you're saying that sometime in the future, if they want to sell the land with the building on it, the town is going to have the right of first.
Yes, to be clear, they will absolutely own the land and have the right to do with it what they want, but within the parameters we are setting, which means they must maintain it as an affordable housing project with 184 units, the same as it is today. And they can keep that for 100 years if they want.
For 40 years from the day you sign the agreement?
The restrictions are for 40 years. What that means is they're absolutely obligated. They cannot change that for 40 years. After 40 years, they have the right, if they want to continue to own it and to continue to maintain it as an affordable housing project. They could do that for 100 years if they want. That is their right, and it does not affect us. It is only if those affordable restrictions expire and they no longer use it as an affordable housing project, right? So all of the restrictions on all the units expire and they go to sell it, we then have the right, the township will have the right to buy back whenever that happens. It might be 40 years, it might be 100 years. That right will run along with the property.
And is somebody going to review this every year with the entities that are going to own it?
Yes.
And I mean a review.
Yes.
And let the public know that you have reviewed it, because I see that
Actually,
over a course of 30, 40 years, the
it's not every year.
deed restrictions get lost in the mire.
The deed restrictions are going to be recorded with the county clerk. So they will be there. I mean, there are deed restrictions that go back 100 years.
Doesn't matter on my property. The association doesn't understand what those deed restrictions really mean and how they should keep out of what I do with my property, which is 50 by 100 feet, not just my building. So is somebody going to review it and make sure that there is a signature that says, yes, I understand the terms, we're both in agreement, you won't be here for after many of those years, these principles won't be there. And they mention that they own, is it, property in New Jersey under these same circumstances?
I think you said 11 or 12 properties in New Jersey that are the same as this, affordable housing for seniors.
And can you address whether they have this same agreement on all of those properties?
I can't. I don't know what their agreements are on all of
Then
those
I
properties.
ask the council president to please have somebody from NCR answer the question about whether they have these same situations with the other properties in New Jersey.
Is your question, are those other properties in New Jersey deed restricted as affordable housing projects?
And do they have a restriction that says at the end of a specific term, whatever that may be in each case, that they cannot just go out and sell it to anybody, they must first offer it to the township or someplace or state?
We can ask that. I'll tell you this, I will bet that they don't, because I know that not every town negotiates that type of protection for the township. It is a valuable right for the township to have that. We requested that, and we actually insisted that it be part of the transaction. I
So
doubt
much
it's
for
in
the
every
United
transaction.
States and our laws being the same.
Any other questions?
Yes, as I say, I have, and you're now,
She has this mic, she's talking, I want to hear what she
Helping.
has to say.
you're now making it more difficult for me to,
All I'm asking is
recreate.
if you have any other questions.
Yes.
I want to know
Talking.
about the circumstances. Where are the other properties? What are the circumstances involved there? Because I'm not so sure we should have the right to tell them after 40 years, a property, land and building they have to first come to a township of people who are no longer the same people that are here today, setting that. And is it a completely unique situation for them, not just in this state, but in all the states that they say they are in?
Ms. Cole, I appreciate your concern for NCR.
No, I'm not concerned about NCR. I'm concerned about how this whole thing is, and quite frankly, to me, it sounds a little fishy.
Well, I think this is actually an excellent deal for the township.
Oh, yeah, of course you do. Didn't you
Well,
negotiate it? Why would you
well,
negotiate something you didn't feel was a good deal?
I'm putting the terms out there so the council and the residents can judge for themselves. But when the township is getting $1.65 million up front, instead of getting $1 a year for a lease, I think that's a good thing. I don't think there's
I
much
know you
doubt
do.
about it. When we
And the mayor
extend
thought it was a
affordable
good
hou-
thing.
Let me finish. When we extend the affordable housing restrictions, which right now will expire in 28 years on the lease to 40 years, to me, that's a good thing. When we have a right to buy the property back at the end of the term, rather than let it just go to market, which is the current situation, I think that's a good thing. So I don't just say it's good because I negotiated it. I put the terms out, and I think the terms speak for themselves.
Not quite. And the mayor said he thought it was a good thing. And the council is going to vote. But the mayor and the council have an obligation to really think about everything and hear what we, the people, think about it and ensure we truly know every little piece of it and see that every I is dotted and every T is crossed. And this is not being made clear because I have made the statement. Sounds fishy. And that's my impression of it, which perception is reality. The fact that you think it's good, that doesn't make it good. The fact that anybody else thinks. And the council has an obligation to find out from the people and explain to the people and make sure we're all comfortable with it. And I, for one, definitely am not.
Sir, would you like to get up and, sorry, would you like to get up and answer some of her questions if there's your other properties in New Jersey?
It's a complex question,
Very.
but I will tell you that every property that's an affordable housing property has a use restriction that goes along with it, and it's an extended period of time, decades worth of use restriction for every property. If we, for instance, we had a use restriction at properties that ran for 50 years, we went to refinance the property with another federal loan, and when we did, we had to agree to extend it again because we were using federal money to do that. So it's commonplace that we have use restrictions that run out for an extended period of time. She was asking, you know, is this unique, what we have here? Well, I would say it is unique, but it's unique because we're leasing the land now and we're going to sell it, and the township wants to make sure that they do have their T's crossed and their I's dotted to make sure that the property is going to remain affordable. And quite honestly, we welcome that because it's our full intention to keep it affordable for decades to come.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much. Any other questions from the public?
George Scott, Queen Anne Road. First of all, let me start by saying I also want this affordable housing kept as affordable housing. That's why I asked the questions that I did the last time around, in view of the fact that there was a recorded instrument filed by the Department of Community Affairs which eliminated the deed restrictions. Mr. Starkey addressed that. He said he didn't know how that happened. But let me just stay on the point that the township attorney said. You felt that in your negotiations, the fact that you included the right of first refusal being really important to maintain control for the township of Brick, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. With that said, why didn't your firm feel that way 15 years ago when you drew this up and we would be in that position right now, that you would have had the right of first refusal instead of them?
I can't speak for, I can tell you this, I did not negotiate the deal 15 years ago, so I don't know why it was done the way it was done. But I also would say we were in, the town was in a different situation then. They were trying to encourage this project to be constructed.
Okay.
And I don't think it was 15 years ago. I think it was 22 years ago.
Uh-huh.
The lease is,
One of the papers, and there are different dates, 1996, 2001,
The lease
but it
was-
wasn't past 2001, to the best of my knowledge.
The lease was executed in 1996, the original lease with the predecessor to Homes Now.
Okay. Again, not being an attorney, I am looking at the deed of easement and restrictive covenant for extended low-income occupancy. I was wondering if you could explain to me, on page 2 and 3, the box is checked off, and it reads as follows. And this, the code requires low-income housing projects retain all occupancy and rent restrictions for a minimum of 30 years unless terminated by code. The code defines the first 15 years as the compliance period and defines the entire 30 years as more as the extended use period. Goes on. And then it's box A or box B. If this box is checked, the project owner, which is Homes Now, Inc., elected in the application to increase the compliance period described in Section 42 of the code by an additional 15 years for a total of 30 years, and waives the right under Section 42 of the code to submit a written request to the agency to find a buyer after the close of the 14th year of the compliance period, and agrees that this has the effect of delaying the period for finding a buyer under Section 42 of the code until the 1 year period beginning on the date after the 29th year of the compliance period, that the project owner may submit a written request to the agency to find the buyer. So, according to this, and again, I didn't go to Harvard or Yale, I can read, it's definitely not 29 years, so how is this happening?
I have to tell you, Mr. Scott, are you reading from the state deed restriction, the Affordable Housing Agreement for rental properties?
Filed with the county clerk on November 8th of 2001. And I'm referring to this. Page 2. Starts there, and it goes to there where it tells you that you can't do it for 29 years. If you could stop the clock at least, because I have other questions, or I could go ahead with the questions.
Well, I believe this is the deed restriction you were referring to that is from the state of New Jersey. I believe that's what this is. This is the one you said was released?
Say again?
This was released.
Where is the release?
I'm sorry, I thought that's what you were just referring to. The deed restrictions I was referring to, the restrictions on the affordability restrictions for this project are in the 1996 lease that require this project as a condition of that lease for this property to be maintained as affordable for the duration of the lease, which is it's a 50-year lease beginning in 1996. That's what I was referring to when you said.
Okay, but what I'm saying is the owner, Homes Now, Inc., agreed to these conditions. How are they getting around the conditions is a kind of a legal question that I can't answer. Again, I'm not an attorney, but I think it should be brought forth because I'm going to pursue this. I don't think it's a good deal for the town, as I said to you before. The other question that I have is regarding the rents. And again, you're talking about market rents down the road. When this, according to what I'm looking at, when this started out, the rent roll for a one-bedroom was $468 a month, totaling $5,616 a year. Crunching the numbers, the rent roll at the beginning was $1,065,852. So if we were getting 5% of the gross rents, which is what you told me we were getting, we started off with at least 50. Now you also told me we're getting about 80. So the 80,000 that we're getting now doesn't come to the figure that Mr. Fosman just gave before. It comes to $1,650,000. I would like, as one of my questions to the gentleman who's the potential purchaser, and that's another thing. I read the sales and purchase agreement. It doesn't say that they are the managers. It says a subsidiary of theirs is the manager.
Right.
Okay, so you keep saying they're the manager, they're not the manager. And they had, really, the way I look at it, I've owned real estate, they got information from the manager. So they knew what the rent roll was, all different things. Out of the $1,650,000, I'd like to know what the gross expenses are, because I think that comes into play.
I have that. It's from 2007. So every year, Homes Now comes and they give us a check for the ASC.
Right.
And with that check comes a cover letter that explains it. So May 22nd of 2018 is when we got the check. It's based on 2017. So it was the base, the annual gross rents plus the laundry, because they get other profits from that, and late charges for a total revenue of $1,758,623.63, less water, sewer, and vacancy payments of $154,745.80, multiplied by the 5% pilot payment, or yeah, they call it a pilot, but it's not a pilot, equals $80,193.89.
Okay. Okay. The other, and the first question I have is kind of a big question. The other one with the purchase and sale agreement on, and there's a number of things. Oh, right at the get-go, what I don't understand, Kevin, is you want these people to own it for a very long time, but right at the very beginning, it says that they have the option to assign this. Well, why would you even leave that in the purchase agreement? That they should have no right of assigning. If they're going to be the purchasers, let them be the purchasers. Why would you include that?
It's common in a real estate transaction to take title under a different name. So it's not unusual at all to assign it. What's important to the township are the terms of the deal cannot change, meaning the price is the same, the deed restrictions are the same, the affordability controls for 40 years are the same, the right of first refusal is the same. It doesn't matter if the title of the person is National Church Residences Investment Corporation or a subsidiary or affiliate that acquires title to it. They are bound by the same thing. So that's why the assignment doesn't, it's not of a concern to me.
Anybody that's up on the dais, if you looked at the purchase and sale agreement, have you seen any of the exhibits, like Exhibit C that's alluded to on page 3 or Exhibit K? I didn't see any of the exhibits as part of the contract. Have any of you?
I believe the exhibits are, for the most part, I'd call them pro forma documents that are part of a real estate closing, except for, and I believe I gave this to you, the right of first refusal. I know I gave it to you. That's an important exhibit that was on here. To me, that's the one that is critical to the material terms of the deal. The rest of these, I mean, one of them is the deed. I mean, the deed is the deed. Another one is the bill of sale. Bill of sale is bill of sale. I mean, these are documents that are generated, you know, as just part of the transaction. The council really doesn't have the right to approve or disapprove of things like the deed. That's something my office does to make sure clear title is transferred.
Okay, one of the questions that was addressed to the appraiser, and I'll ask my question. At the last meeting, you had said that the appraiser was told, I think that was the word used, was told to appraise this as vacant land.
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
I did not say that.
That's why I'm asking.
Yep, because I'll tell you when this came up, vacant land, honestly, we did not know how to appraise it. We didn't know what the valuation, I mean, it's not like you're going out and getting a single-family home on a piece of land and you'd look around the street, around the neighborhood. What did they sell for? That is comparable. We had an unusual situation here where we owned the land, but not the buildings that were already constructed and residing there. We're just selling the land. So we needed the land appraised. So we went to our township appraiser, who's been our appraiser for years, and said to him, can you value this for us, and how would you do it? It was beyond my expertise to tell him how to do it. I wouldn't know that. And he told us the valuation analysis that he would use, which, if you want me to go through it, involved, you know, comparable.
Okay, but again, it's like, forget the buildings are there, forget the income is there, forget the water, I mean, forget the sewers, the streets, the sidewalks, it's all there. it just is mind-boggling how the township can accept $1,650,000 as raw vacant land. It is not in that condition at all right now. I'm just saying that's my opinion. I'm sure he's going to have an answer for that. There was another thing brought up by Mr. Fosman, that it was a higher valuation at some point. And the mayor, and even at the very beginning, you keep saying the township was only getting $1 a year. But as part of the pilot program, we were getting $50,000, $80,000, $70,000. So we'd be getting our fair share of taxes, if you want to put it that way. If this goes on and on, again, for however many years, Board of Education doesn't get this year, the taxpayers still absorb that amount of funds, which you're doing nothing. Other towns, and as part of the negotiations for pilots, and they have now started to add a 5% for education, for Board of Education fees. They're not getting the whole thing. And pilots were done at the very beginning as an incentive to build buildings like this. Great thing, and it should go on. Well, guess what? That's done. What I'm going to ask the gentleman that's buying this, too, he mentioned tax credits. In one of the papers, it says that you were getting, oh, by the way, in looking at this, the township, when this first started, gave to the developer, Homes Now, Inc., $1,850,000.
I saw that.
Nobody ever said anything about that, so that money went, no recouping of that at all in any way, shape, or form. You're only trying to get the value of the land, which is probably right, because that's all you own right now. However, the tax credits, according to this, were $1,929,981 annually. Is that correct? That's what it says in here.
That is not within my purview.
Okay, so that'll be an answer that he has. Not only did it was supposed to be for 15 years. Again, Homes Now, Inc. decided that they wanted to extend that. So it's really 30 years of tax credits at that number on an annual basis. So they're going to reap the benefits of $2 million in tax credits every year. It's a home run. It's a home run, period.
I'll tell you this, sir, I don't know, and I don't do an analysis of what they do. What I do is an analysis of the township and what the township gets out of it. The township does not have the option to get those tax credits. And my understanding of affordable housing projects from their side is that those tax credits are something that the federal government has decided. It's a federal government subsidy of affordable housing projects that's run through the state. That is a judgment made by the federal government based on an extensive application submitted by people who operate these projects as to what an appropriate credit is. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the projection of it is, but it doesn't matter to me, to the township, what benefits they get. What matters is what benefits the township gets out of this, and if they are good benefits.
If I was buying something, I was getting $2 million, and you didn't care about it, and that affected the price, I'd love to do business with you every day.
If I was selling it for $2 million, that was the value to me, then I think that would be fair.
I definitely don't think $1,650,000 is fair. Also, the 40 years extension, this took it to 2044. What you said before, it's going to 2058?
2046, the lease goes to.
Okay.
The affordability, yes, we'd go to 2058. That's correct.
Why?
Because
Why would you do that? Again, you're going to have a right of first refusal, and you're having it in an extended period of time. You can, if it goes the way you're thinking it's going, you want it, it might behoove the township at that point. You would want it for a shorter period of time, not a longer period of time.
oh, no, I disagree. No,
Okay.
the township,
We do.
I don't think it is in the township's interest to try to reacquire this property and own and operate it. For what the reasons the mayor said, we're not in the business of being landlords of affordable housing projects. We're not suited to it. That's a private industry.
You are in the business, there is a housing authority of Brick. I mean, we do have apartments. We do have it for for seniors. We do need it for low income. We do need it for special needs people. I'm for that, but I'm not for the taxpayer swallowing a pill when an entity is going to recoup a ton of money. It's also going to be interesting when he comes up and says what the expenses are going to be off of $1,650,000. And that's going to be another no-brainer that you're going to be able to think of real easy and see if you're getting a good deal or not. I've taken up a lot of time. There are some answers that I'm waiting for, so I'd like to hear those.
Mr. Mancini? Were you-
I have a question for Mr. Mancini real quick.
Just a quick overview.
Overview. If you can come to the mic, so. on-
I'll be happy to do so. I'll try to do so. There was a lot there, so the specific question, I'm not quite sure what it is. But I would be remiss if I didn't just add one thing to the discussions here, particularly the affordable housing restriction. The zoning for this property is AH1. It allows no other use but affordable housing. The restriction that the township has put on it is specific to specific needs there, but it's more like a belts and suspenders type issue there. This property, unless there's a zone change variance or something like that, cannot be used for anything else but affordable housing. So the length of the term of the restriction is somewhat moot because, again, the site is valued for affordable housing, and by right of zoning, it can be used for nothing else. And unless the township changes that, or a future council, that's it. That's all it can be used for. So we don't know what it's going to be used for in the future, but as we stand here today, it has a long-term deed restriction in place. By right of zoning, it can be used for nothing else. And to the extent my valuation considered that, it certainly did. To the point of doing the underlying land, the Township of Brick doesn't own the buildings. Even discussions regarding rent, the rent is not generated via the land. That's a portion of it. It has a 184-unit building sitting on top of it that's generating rent. Township doesn't own that. They don't have a right to that. In fact, there's a separate sale agreement for that that's significant. The total acquisition cost by NCR, as I understand it, is about $7 million, including this. So when asked to value the underlying site, we struck a hypothetical condition, as my profession calls it, to value the land, assuming the building wasn't there, because that's all the township owns, and we assumed that it was restricted for affordable housing consistent with what exists there. So we did appraise it consistent with an approval that's in place for the 184 units, recognizing those restrictions, and then we compared it to similar land sales that had similar restrictions or were purchased for a similar type use, affordable housing, and came up for the value of the underlying land only. No consideration to the building.
Can I ask you something, Mr. Mancini? Page 15, in your conclusion, it says, "This unit value reflects a value indication by the sales comparison approach of $1,650,000. You have 184 units. The units at $9,000 a unit came out to $1,656,000.
$1,650,000, yes.
Yes. That you assess the units, and you said you're
No.
not. I don't get, I'm just looking at your paper here.
Well, I'll answer your question if you let me. We value land. When we value land, we first have to break it down on a unit of comparison. If I'm doing a residential lot, I may just base that value on a sales comparison. What's a residential 10,000 square foot lot worth? So I'll analyze comparable sales on a per lot basis. I often do land analysis on a price per square foot, a price per acre, which we could have done this for. And by the way, this reflects about $225,000 per acre for the site, which is heavily constrained with freshwater wetlands. It has no functional frontage on Chambers Bridge Road and is consistent with 4 of the 6 comparable sales I analyzed. When analyzing a property that is assumed or has approvals in place, a common denominator is that approved unit. So each one of my comparable sales was a vacant land sale that was purchased subject to or with approvals in place. That gives me a common denominator. We have a property that I'm appraising that has 184 approved units vacant. Therefore, we're using apples to apples comparison, making adjustments for differences, and then ultimately equating that into a land value. So we can look at it on a price per unit, which was $9,000 a unit, or we can look at it on a price per acre, which was about $225,000 per acre.
I just wonder how you came to that.
Did I
Thank
answer
you.
your question?
Yes, it did.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. Any other questions? Yes.
Clayton Pedershak, 588 New Jersey Ave. I had several questions that were being answered little by little in odd order. But so what I'm left with here is really, first for NCR. As per that you're a 401c3, and that comes with restrictions on what your total revenues to operating costs can be. Just what's a rough estimate of your revenues to operating cost as far as your fiscal years?
Could you please say that question one more time?
What's just a rough estimate of your operating cost to total revenues?
You mean,
As far as your practice as a 401c3?
I don't know that answer off the top of my head.
Fair enough. And lastly, I just have somewhat an input, since you guys do seem like a much larger institution than Homes Now. There is consistent issues with Chambers Bridge Road and the development that's occurred around there that has made Chambers Bridge a little too heavy in traffic for people that are living there with mobility issues. And oftentimes in a year we have unfortunate vehicular homicides on that road. And just with a new institution coming in with a lot more resources and operating in more states than Homes Now, I was wondering if I could just throw that input in there. If, you know, there's 3 entities that can work on making it a safer situation for people living there, and that if we could put some focus towards maybe a pedestrian bridge, longer light times, something to try to quell that issue. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Vic Finelli, Meadow Point Drive. If I was to say these meetings were going to the dogs, I wouldn't be wrong, right? Me lighten up a little bit. That was a good one. That wasn't my line, by the way. Couple of quick questions. NCR and Homes Now, are they both for-profit companies?
No,
Nonprofits.
they're both nonprofits.
They're both nonprofit?
Correct.
What does that mean exactly?
It's defined by federal and state law. There's a long definition, and I don't want to try and summarize it, but it's the difference between a for-profit corporation, which exists to make a profit for its shareholders, and a nonprofit corporation, which does not make such a profit, does not have shareholders.
Okay, so they have to run the business, so at the end of the year, they break even?
That's
Basically
a fair way
that?
to say it, yeah.
Okay. Affects most of my other questions. When we mention tax credits, who do those tax credits come from? I heard the federal government, but do they tell the township what to do, or
No.
actually?
No, that comes through the federal government. It's administered through the state of New Jersey, and there's a lengthy application process, a review process, a qualification process, and that is handled really outside of without the township.
Okay. The township, if I understood correctly, is getting about $80,000 a year in administrative fees.
Yes.
If that was taxed as a commercial property, ballpark, what would the township be getting for taxes? That's not disclose. Don't have to figure it out.
267,811.
400?
The township would be, I'm sorry, 83,795.
Okay, so you're getting, your 5% equals just about what the township would get for the normal taxes.
Roughly.
What is the school?
Goes to the school
What is
and
the
county.
Pardon me?
The rest goes to the school and county.
Oh, well, that was my next question. What does the school district get?
By state law, the school district on agreements like this generally doesn't get anything. And part of that is because this is a senior and special needs project. There is no nobody going to the schools from this project.
Okay. I heard this was a pilot, and I also heard somebody say this is not a pilot. Is it or is it not a pilot?
It is not. It is what it's called Administrative Service Charges, ASC it's called for short, and it's applicable to projects like this.
Okay. My last question. At the end of this 40 years, whatever it is, the township has the right to buy back both the property and the buildings?
You're right on what the township has rights to do, but it's not at the end of 40 years, it's at the end of the affordability
Okay.
restrictions if they're not extended. But yes, the entire land and buildings, correct.
Okay. The $64 question is, who decides the price?
There's a formula set up to decide fair market value. I believe it's that if there can't be an agreement on it, that the owner at the time would get an appraiser, we would get an appraiser. If they're within a certain range, we agree. If not, they get a third appraiser, and they, come to a ruling basically on what fair market value is.
Of course, since none of us are going to be around in that amount of time,
True.
I can't ask what the township was going to do when they own the property back.
You can ask. Nobody here can answer it.
Okay, thank you.
Space station.
Um,
Space station.
Here. Anybody else from public? Yes.
I was wondering if the gentleman was going to answer my questions about the tax credits.
The tax credits. What's the exact question?
Look at the tax credits where, according to these papers, that they were extended for a 30-year period by Homes Now, Inc. At the beginning, he said he was going to try to get tax credits. Are they in place now, or are they not in place? I also asked, what were the gross expenses off of the $1,650,000 in rent?
I believe once they acquire everything, they can apply for the tax credits, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, there's not a guarantee, when you say tax credits in place, there's no guarantee. They apply, and there's a lengthy application process, a qualification process, and it also depends on funds available. So they don't know definitely what tax credits they are going to get. I'm sure they have an anticipation or what they hope they'll get or projections, but they don't know because it depends on a number of different factors played out over the next, decades.
So there's that $1,900,000 in tax credits annually. Does that figure change?
I don't
based on it?
know where that, I don't know where that comes from.
number-
I don't know where your number comes from because
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the
All
tax
right,
credit situation.
My other question was, you were going to try to do a new pilot. Can I ask you why that was not done?
Well, it's not a pilot, it's administrative service charges, but I had legal concerns about that, so that resolution was stricken.
Okay, and also on page 26, it alludes to seller's cost and adjustments. Specifically, it says, any commission, fees, or other compensation or reimbursement due, if any, to any direct or indirect affiliate of the seller. Are there any such
I'm
numbers?
sorry, I missed that. Can you ask that one more time?
Page 26,
Of
14.3?
Of the purchase and sale agreement?
Yes,
Okay, what paragraph?
14.3.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
My question is, are there any commissions or any monies due to anybody that's stipulated here?
No, that's a standard provision in a real estate contract, and it doesn't
It is,
apply here
but I
because
just wanted-
there are no
I wanted it-
brokers, there are no
Yep,
commissions,
I
no.
wanted for the record. On the next paragraph, Kev, also, no, I'm sorry, on page 20, number G,
What's the paragraph?
G,
Oh, gee, okay, you're on
Page
Okay.
20.
13.2 we're going?
yeah, conditions to closing, A, B, C, D, E, F at the bottom, G.
I have paragraph numbers. What's your paragraph number? Okay, I'm sorry, what was the question?
So my question is,
Go ahead.
any old agreements entered prior, and it eliminates Homes Now, Inc., Chambers Bridge, and it specifically names Carol Wolf as an individual. I mean, she was president of Homes Now. Why is that? I'm just curious.
That is what you're reading from is conditions of the purchaser, right? NCR is the purchaser.
Okay.
So they put a condition on the closing that there be a termination of any agreements between the purchaser and Homes Now, Chambers Bridge, or Carol Wolf. I don't know that they do have any. I don't know, I don't know why that's in there, but I assume there's a reason that they want to terminate any agreements. To me, it would tell me that what they want to do is make sure they get a clean title to the property. In other words, without management agreements in place, without employment agreements in place. But that's really a condition on their side, not our side.
Okay. And out of the purchase price of $5.4 million, in the closing, it stipulates that they don't have to come up with, or at least the way I read it, they don't have to come up with all of the money, that they can assume the mortgages that are in place. Is that correct? Therefore, they're only going to have to come up with, I think it was almost $3 million, so it's $2.4 million?
That is not our transaction you're talking about. There are two transactions here. NCR is purchasing the buildings from Homes Now, and I think you're referring to that agreement. NCR is purchasing the land from the township. So the financial aspects of their deal, frankly, I'm not familiar with because it doesn't concern us. I know there's an agreement. And
Okay, I thought that was in part of the sale and purchase agreement.
one of the conditions on the purchase and sale agreement is that that transaction close simultaneously. They want to get the buildings and land closed together.
Okay, and last thing, again, for the record, the $2.3 million mortgage that was done last September, you had said that was to pay an existing mortgage off for, again, can you just,
Yeah, that
What
was,
was that
that
for?
was not, and did not involve the township. That was a mortgage that Homes Now obtained on the buildings on the site from, there was one from the state and one from the, I think, a private bank. I was not involved in that, the town was not involved in that. That was their transaction. What I was telling you was what was relayed to me by the attorney for Homes Now, why they did that transaction, which my understanding was to eliminate some accrued interest that ultimately did not get paid back to the state.
okay, is the attorney for Homes Now here?
Yes, Chris? He's right here.
Is that the situation?
Yes.
Okay, was that to pay off the state mortgage?
There's a mortgage from the Department of Community Affairs going back 18 years ago.
Okay,
And this mortgage, it only gets paid at maturity, but it accrues interest through maturity. And there was a roughly $2 to $3 million interest accrued on it. So rather than have that direct deposit, Homes Now got a loan from Ocean First Bank to pay it off the mortgage.
okay. With that loan that they had, there was no forgiveness for keeping it a certain period of time?
Loans, we talk about them being forgiven by the state, but they're real loans and you can't pay them back to the person's property. So instead of having $5 million in this property, Homes Now decided to pay it. So 2.3 promotion. Saving about $3 million on the property.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, for anyone who doesn't remember, I'm Nan Call of 18 Greenbrier Boulevard. And through the chair to the attorney, right now, Homes Now, Inc. owns the building.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And Homes Now, Inc. is a not-for-profit organization, 501c3 probably,
I'm not positive.
and under Title 15A in the state of New Jersey.
That's correct.
And you say that it's ACS, not pilot. Now, there's a whole bunch of facts that have been bombarded into my head in the past 18 years, so I'm not sure I'm remembering correctly, but I've been here every time that Homes Now, Inc. tendered a check, and usually the big cardboard check, such as the K-9s had tonight, and I could swear it was said that it was pilot, payment in lieu of taxes,
It may have been.
not
It
ACS.
may have been. People sometimes use the terms interchangeably, but they're not interchangeable. And I just wanted to be accurate tonight.
Well, I believe that every time it was said that it was done under that basis. Now, as a not-for-profit profit, when Homes Now Inc. donates that check, makes sense to me that it would be in lieu of taxes, because they're not allowed to keep that money, are they?
It's
They had
not-
that money in their coffers, wherever it came from.
It's not, that is not profit of Homes Now. That is an administrative service charge that is an expense that they owe to the township.
Never has been said that I know. It was always it was always presented to the public as if it was a donation. But the word pilot was used. And am I not correct that if Homes Now Inc. is a 501c3 organized under Title 15A of the New Jersey statutes, that that money would have to be money that they would never be allowed to have kept for themselves? It would have to be somehow recorded and balanced off in the following year, so that, in effect, it makes more sense it was a pilot. Am I wrong in that thinking?
I honestly couldn't follow all of that, but
The money had to come from someplace.
I can just tell you my understanding of where it came from and what it was.
It had to come from someplace, and in effect, to me, it only makes sense to be an excess that they had and could afford to turn into the township in lieu of the taxes they normally would have been paying for any other business.
Okay.
And I do suggest that there be no vote tonight, because you people couldn't possibly have decided based upon this meeting and what has come out whether to vote yea or nay. But I suspect that you came into here tonight intending to vote yea.
Anybody else from public? Okay, after 18 months of review by this council, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
Councilman Mumalo.
Yes.
Councilman Fosman.
Well, I feel that we should lease the land and not sell it. I don't think we're getting the proper value for the land, and I'd like to keep it affordable housing for the future and not have to worry about it after 40 years for the future of Brick Township, so I'm voting no.
President DeYoung.
Yes. Very good.
Thank you.
Congratulations, NCR. First turtle. Now on 4.2, we have that off the agenda, and now we are going to move on to our consent agenda.
All matters listed under item consent agenda will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. If discussion is desired on any item, this item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately.
Very good. Resolution 5.1, Recognize Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Recently, someone from the school contacted me, and what the schools are trying to do now with their new superintendent is trying to have district-wide events and support different causes. So they are doing a district-wide support or Recognize Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and they're asking all of the students to wear gold on September 27th. So we, as the township, are also recognizes September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month as a way to spotlight the different types of cancer that largely affect children, to help raise funds for research and family support, and to remember the young lives that were taken so soon. Resolution 5.2, authorize insertion of Chapter 159, 2018 Community Development Block Grant, CDBG. This resolution authorizes the insertion of a grant in the amount of $296,556 from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Office of Community Planning and Development, for the 2018 Community Development Block Grant. Resolution 5.3, authorize award a bid, purchase and delivery, one single axle dump truck. This resolution authorizes the award of bid for the purchase and delivery of one single axle dump truck to Gabrielli Kenilworth of New Jersey, LLC, Dayton, New Jersey, in the amount of $106,825. Bid notices were sent to 61 bidders, of which 9 received the bid package. 1 bid was received. The purchase of this truck was approved in the 2018 capital budget. Resolution 5-4, authorize award of bid, purchase and delivery of 133 cubic yard automated sanitation collection vehicle. This resolution authorizes the award of bid for the purchase and delivery of 133 cubic yard sanitation collection vehicle to Hunter Jersey Peterbilt, Clarksburg, in the amount of $271,499. Bid notices were sent to 61 bidders, of which 4 requested the bid package. 1 bid was received. The purchase of this truck was approved in the 2018 capital budget. Resolution 5-5, authorize award of bid, purchase and delivery, 1 rear-loading sanitation collection vehicle. This resolution authorizes the award of bid for the purchase and delivery of 1 rear-loading sanitation collection vehicle to Hunter Jersey Peterbilt, Clarksburg, in the amount of $168,561. Bid notices were sent to 61 bidders, of which 4 requested the bid package. 1 bid was received. The purchase of this truck was approved in the 2018 capital budget. Resolution 5-6, authorize change order number 2 final Riviera Beach roadway improvement project. This resolution authorizes change order number 2 and final for the Riviera Beach roadway improvement project. In this change order, the contract issued to MECO Inc. will be decreased by $20,750. Resolution 5-7, authorize award of bid CDBG Housing Rehabilitation Program Project 14-01. This resolution authorizes the award of bid for the project within the Community Development Block Grant Housing Rehabilitation Program to Peterson Construction in Brick in the amount of $8,450. Resolution 5-8, authorize award of bid CDBG Housing Rehabilitation Program Project 17-13. This resolution authorizes the award of bid for the project within the Community Development Block Grant Housing Rehabilitation Program to David Clark Construction, Bayville, in an amount of $20,400. Resolution 5-9, authorize execution of shared services agreement, Ocean County Prosecutors Special Operations Group. Mayor.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the execution of a shared services agreement with the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office Special Operations Group. Now, what's that? What's the Special Operations Group? That is the Ocean County Gang, Gun, and Narcotics Task Force. Now, the township pays the salary of the officer that is assigned to the Special Operations Group, but the county pays for any overtime costs that are incurred for that officer doing the undercover gun, gang, and narcotics investigations. And it's great benefits to us. We did speak with the police chief, and the benefits are we get additional resources by being part of this group, which means we don't have to share in the cost of certain software. So some of the software is the prosecutor's office give our police department software where they can look at their phones if there's some type of active shooting event or something going on at one of our schools, and the phones will show where all the good guys are. It'll show the last report of where the bad guy is, and it moves when the people move, so they know how to clear rooms. They know police officer might not know where room 110 is, but they're going to know because they have it on their phone. So that's one of the things is the additional resources. But also we receive a portion of the money of anything collected from the forfeiture accounts. So when you see those forfeiture cases that you read about, and it'll say $1.2 million forfeited, we get the share in that, along with the other municipalities up in the county that are part of this special group. Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 5-10, authorize special events permit, Pet Blessing. This resolution authorizes the special events permit for a Pet Blessing adoption vendor fair on October 20th between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at St. Paul's United Methodist Church on Herbertsville Road. Resolution 5-11, authorize placement of tax liens for property cleanups. This resolution authorizes the placement of tax liens for property cleanups at 8 Cadiz Drive in the amount of $383.10, 38 Adair Drive in the amount of $90.16, 517 Glenwood Avenue in the amount of $216.42, 23 Island Drive in the amount of $90.16, 55 Serpentine Drive in the amount of $69.39, 108 Taft Drive in the amount of $32.69, and 71 Pleasant Avenue in the amount of $376.93. Resolution 512, authorize 2018-2019 taxi cab business renewals. This resolution authorizes taxi cab renewal licenses to the following: A, Ace Taxi Service, B, Brick Taxi, C, Mantaloking Taxi LLC. Resolution 513, authorize 2018 motor vehicle selling license, Bricktown Motors, 483 Herbertsville Road. This resolution authorizes a motor vehicle selling license to Bricktown Motors, Herbertsville Road. Resolution 514, requesting to expedite construction funding for projects associated with New Jersey Back Bay's Coastal Storm Risk Management Study. Mayor.
Thank you. About a week or a week and a half ago, there was a meeting held regarding our Back Bays and coastal storm risk management. And the meeting was a great meeting, and they had some ideas and things they would like to study. The only thing that came out of that meeting, which was, not a great thing, is the length of time that they're talking about. So this resolution would request that the regulatory agencies at the federal and state level expedite their plans to conduct activities that are going to be outlined in the New Jersey Back Bay's Coastal Storm Management Study. So the study is expected to be completed in 2021. So we're asking, come on, let's move with that quicker. This is 2018. We don't want to wait 3 years to get a study. And then also, the plans were coming out of that meeting is construction contracts for projects needed to protect our neighborhoods. So we have Shore Acres is underwater anytime there's a high tide, and they put a high tide with a full moon, and the roads are covered. Normandy Beach, same thing. North and South Drive, Seawood Harbor. I mean, you go all over. We have the most waterfront property in New Jersey. That waterfront property, a lot of it is low lying. Some of it's high, up on the bluffs on the Manasquan River, but others are very low, and they're low and they're below, and so when the high tide comes up, even when it's not raining, the streets are filled with water because the water comes up from the storm drains. So we need to study quicker. So now, not only was the study not going to be done until 2021, the construction contracts for the projects weren't going to be started until 2026. So we're talking about 8 years from now is when they're finally going to get around to building these things. So the schedule is unacceptable. We need it to be expedited. We need to save our neighborhoods that are severely impacted by the Back Bay flooding, and it's on a regular basis, high tides, full moons, wind, things like that. Thanks.
Thank you. Resolution 515, tax collector, Mrs. Bergen.
Thank you. 15A, 100% widow of DAV refund and cancel taxes for Block 378.22, Lot 26, in the amount of $3,631.71. 15B, 100% DAV refund and cancel taxes for Block 382.09, Lot 1, in the amount of $7,073.09. 15C, 100% DAV refund and cancel taxes for Block 677, Lot 1.03, in the amount of $10,769.38. 15D, 100% DAV cancel taxes, Block 869.41, Lot 12, in the amount of $3,236.67. 15E, 100% DAV refund and cancel taxes for Block 874, Lot 15.01, in the amount of $7,103.24. 15F is tax overpayments for 2015. There is one in the amount of $699.60, and 15G is tax overpayments for the year 2018. 15H is a redemption of a tax sale certificate.
Very good. And that ends our consent agenda. Open it to council. Seeing none, call for a motion in a second.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Mumolo, second by Council Vice President Crate. Open to public for questions. Any questions? Yes.
John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. This always drives me nuts because I don't even know my own block number, never mind. Are we entitled to the addresses, or is that something that's restricted under the law? You can't give addresses when you give like a block number? Because I don't even know my own. I'd have to look it up. When it talks about refunds and the taxes and all that stuff.
That's how we get it from the tax collector.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we should give it to us that way. That's my question. Are we entitled to it, or it's something we're not allowed to have?
No, it's on the resolution, the address, the lot block and the addresses on the resolution.
Oh, so I'd have to come in here to get a resolution?
No.
It's online.
It's online.
Oh. Which obviously I don't do, right? And the old thing with this 8 years for getting done by the federal government, that's about the minimum. Usually you get about 20% on top of that. Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none? Close public, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
Councilman Mumalo.
Yes.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving on to 516, Bill Resolution Computer 2018.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick that the following bills be paid and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to draw orders on the treasurer for the amounts of the same. Computer bill resolution in the amount of $2,629,436.73.
Very good. Open to council.
Yeah, I have a question. Page 26, it says Magic Jump Inflatables. Did we rent them or we bought them? Out of curiosity.
I believe we bought and returned them.
There's $5,700 for inflatables.
I believe we purchased those.
We purchased them and we use them every year?
We use them at camp and we use them at some of our township events. Andrea, do you know any differently?
No, as a
Okay.
matter of fact, I had questioned that when we had the capital budget, so those were approved in this year's capital budget, and I believe you had told me that when we looked at the costs of what we're paying to rent them several times a year, that 1 year's worth would pay for this.
Very good. Thank you.
Can I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Mumalo, second by Councilwoman Zapsik. Open to public. Seeing none, close public. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Abstain on New Jersey press media, and yes to the rest.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
Councilman Mumalo.
Yes.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Abstain CME Associates, and yes to the rest.
Thank you.
Thank you. 517, Bill Resolution Manual 2018.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick that the following bills be paid and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to draw orders on the treasurer for the amounts of the same. Manual bill resolution in the amount of $1,723,160.41.
Open to council. Motion and a second, please.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Mumalo, second by Vice President Crate. Open to public. Seeing none, close public. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
Councilman Mumalo.
Yes.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Abstain CME Associates, and yes to the rest. Moving on to Resolution 6, which is ordinances on first reading. There is no public hearing on the first hearing, or first reading. Resolution 6, we have amend Chapter 245, Land Use Village Zone.
An ordinance of the Township of Brick, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 245 entitled Land Use and creating a village zone.
Mayor?
Thank you. All right, this proposed ordinance, this is going to be great. So it replaces our existing mixed-use overlay zone. So that mixed-use overlay zone is that zone that I talk about all the time, and everybody, usually when I talk about it, people are groaning. So the mixed-use overlay zone was an exchange that was made prior to when I was mayor on council with the state. So the project where the Costco is and all that, they got to do more impervious coverage there, meaning they got to pave over more of it, because the town center was extended to include that area. So in exchange for that, the state wanted something, and that was these 4 mixed-use overlay zones, and they are located at the Food Town site, the old Food Town site, soon-to-be Sports Dome site, I should say. The second one is at the shopping plaza where the Outback is. It's called the Riverwalk, but people know it as other things. But where the Outback is, everybody kind of knows where that is. And the third one is the triangle piece between 88, Burrsville, and Jack Martin. And the fourth one is behind the post office. And the mixed-use overlay zone, what that allows is multifamily housing with some retail. And as you know, out of those 4 sites, we have it behind the post office. I don't, I definitely didn't want that project to happen, but unfortunately, it's there, and we're all dealing with it. It's a lot of strain on our school. It's a lot of strain on our roadway. There's a small little road, Ovation Way, that's right there, and then out onto Chambers Bridge, right where this dangerous, there was a gentleman that came up earlier who was talking about the dangerous Chamber Bridge intersection at Ovation Way, where the Housing Authority buildings are, as well as the Chambers Bridge residents. And they're putting a whole bunch of more people there. So that was the problem. We had this mixed-use overlay zone, one of which is filled, and the other three are still out there. So with this village zone ordinance replaces that. So we're not going to have to worry about these 200-unit apartment buildings and multifamily, and that was definitely a huge goal of mine. Running for mayor, since I've been mayor, working on this, is to get rid of these multifamily type establishments. So this village zone ordinance does exactly that. It establishes standards and regulations for the establishment of uses, structures, and lots in the village zone. So what's the village zone? It's going to be along 3 of our county roads, Herbertsville Road, Drum Point Road, and Maniloking Road. We all know those 3 roads right now. If you drive there, you have a house, then you have a store, then you have a house, then you have 2 stores, then you have a house, then you have a store with two apartments, then you have another store with 1 apartment and everything else. It's kind of a mishmash. And what that does is it actually, what the ordinance does, it's going to provide developmental standards to apply to new construction. So what it means is so right now, if somebody owns a business and they have an apartment upstairs, they can't improve their property without going to the Board of Adjustment. So if they wanted to do a nice facade and make some changes to make it look a little better than it looks right now, they have to go to the Board of Adjustment. And the reason why is because it's a non-conforming use. They have an apartment above a store, right? So they would have to come just to do a nice new facade and everything else to make it look better. They got to go before the Board of Adjustment, which means expense. Board of Adjustment's expensive. Planning board's not as bad. Board of Adjustment, you have a standard to meet. You got to bring in engineers. You got to bring in architects, traffic engineers, maybe, all these different things. And so that takes away. So there's a lot of places on these roads that really want to improve their look, but they're just a small mom and pop business that don't have the money to come before a board and spend all sorts of money. They probably did that when they opened their business, and put all their money in the startup and in the inventory and everything else. They don't have a chance, so it gets a little bit run down. So this is going to help them, because what this allows is the village overlay zone. So it takes away those huge conglomerations of buildings and now puts it into our existing structures that are there. So it's going to help. It's going to help who's there. And the best part about it, another good part about it is, I should say, is it limits. So the most apartments that you're allowed to do on a property that you own, no matter how big it is. So you might have a big, huge piece of property, such as Manilokin Road Ale House. That's a big place, right? So the Manilokin Road Ale House, if they decide that they want to do apartments, they probably physically could do, let's say, 15, 20 apartments above that building. Under this ordinance, the most they're ever allowed to do is 2. And it's based upon square footage. So the store would be based upon the square footage of the store. So if the store is a certain size, they may only be allowed to do 1, but even at the absolute most they could ever do is 2. So again, they'd have to go, if they did want to do more, just like they would now, they'd have to go before a Board of Adjustment and all those expenses and everything else, and then it comes into play, the higher standard, where the traffic comes into play and everything else. So the intent of the proposed zone is to revitalize older commercial areas while maintaining the neighborhood character and quality, and to permit apartment units only in conjunction with a non-residential use or uses permitted in the zone. Permitted uses are specifically listed in the ordinance, and they include retail businesses, professional offices, research and technology offices and facilities, sale of retail goods, restaurants, professional services establishments. And then uses specifically prohibited in the zone is, a lot of people are like, let's try to end this gas station thing. So it specifically prohibits gasoline filling stations and automobile repair and auto body shops. So everybody's, a lot of residents I hear all the time, like, oh, we got another gas station, another gas station, another gas station. This specifically says in these village zones, they are prohibited. The ordinance came about by the township planners identified a trend in Board of Adjustment cases related to mixed use. Just what I was describing. You're trying to fix your facade, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm before this Board of Adjustment spending all my money on engineers and architects. So it's going to legalize many structures that already exist, which makes it easier for property owners with plans to upgrade and make their improvements. So if you take a ride down Drum Point, Maniloking, and Herbertsville, in the areas where there are, you'll be surprised. You'll be like, oh, wow, that's Mr. Keys. I know that. It's a business. Oh, wow, it is attached to a apartment or house. Neighborhood deli right next door. Oh, there is an apartment. Most people didn't even realize, like, oh, wait a minute, there are apartments in these places already. Pharaoh's Teas and I can't think of the other place, but the restaurant right there on Herbertsville Road. There's a little Hershey sign outside. So all those places, when you drive up and down, they're already there. This is going to help all those businesses out and people out that they can do these things without going before the Board of Adjustment, and it helps out our entire township. No more gasoline stations that are not allowed use, and getting rid of those big, huge multifamily projects that do such a harm to our school system and our roadways and other infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This proposed ordinance will be sent to the Planning Board for review and approval, and before our second reading and the public hearing of this ordinance. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
I want to ask a question.
Can I have a motion and a second first,
I'll make a
please?
Second.
Motion by Councilman Mumolo, second by Councilwoman Zapsik. Open to council.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question. I believe that was changed. It was taken out. The gas stations and everything were changed, even though it says here, because I called the attorney up, and it said that just the businesses listed above the page are allowed. So if any business that's not in that page is above can only be there, because that was changed, if everybody knows.
Correct. Specifically.
Whatever's listed, so a baking shop could be there, a liquor store, flower stores, convect, whatever's listed, whatever's not listed cannot be there. So that's the way that it was changed. And were all the people notified of the changes that are going on? I don't believe we notified them. Am I correct, Councilman?
Yeah, notice, because this is called a reexamination of a master plan change, notice is to be sent generally through the newspaper and through the township website. Is not sent individually to each property owner.
I hope our reporters out there get this out there, because the people should know that this is going on, just so if they have anything to say, they should be able to come down here and speak their minds of whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to do big-time press releases and everything to really let these people know, yes, you could come in and improve your properties, and it's not going to cost you a lot of money. There are going to be a lot of happy people out there. So we're going to promote this, Facebook, press releases, and everything. It's going to be great. No problem. Thanks.
Closed council. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes. We are on to 6.2, amending the zoning designation for various properties.
An ordinance amending the zoning designation for various properties on the zoning map of the Township of Brick.
Very good. This ordinance amends zoning designation for the properties after reexamination of the master plan for promoting the orderly growth and redevelopment of the township. Motion and a second, please.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Councilman Mumolo, second by Councilman Halloran. Open to council. No council. Closed council. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes.
Thank
Just-
you.
That's 6.2. I was supposed to actually say 6.2 are the properties that are involved with 6.1. So I meant to say that in my little thing, and I kind of got off on a tangent because I'm happy. It's one of the things that people have been looking forward to for a while. Thanks.
Thank you. We are now come to public comments.
Please note that each person addressing the council during any section of the meeting during which public comment is permitted shall limit his or her remarks to 5 minutes pursuant to Brick Township Administrative Code, Section 2-33B.
First.
Good evening. John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. I'm going to read my letter dated September 18th. Dear Mayor Ducey, Council President Heather DeYoung, and all the councilmen and councilwomen. A 14-foot pollution, noise, and safety wall along the side of the Garden State Parkway is needed in Evergreen Woods, Briar Mills, Primrose Garden, Greenbrier, Birchwood, and other areas in Brick Township. Replanting of brush and trees that were destroyed foolishly and illegally by the New Jersey Turnpike Authority on the Garden State Parkway is also a necessity to reestablish some of the well-being of Brick residents. This is not a cure-all, obviously, for all the destruction caused by the New Jersey Turnpike Authority, but it may well curtail some of the ill effects brought about by the commissioners from the deadly destruction of the environment surrounding the Garden State Parkway. The residents of Evergreen Woods, Sutton Village, Greenbrier, Birchwood Park, Primrose Gardens, and various other streets surrounding the Garden State Parkway are at risk to early onset of COPD, heart attacks, and other ailments. If you work or live in the areas near the Garden State Parkway's pollution, such as Town Hall and the library, you're also at risk. Thousands of studies prove that the ill effects of those tiny particulates being sent through the airways to your lungs from the Garden State Parkway may very well cause a bedridden life and premature deaths. With the increased risk of autism, asthma, COPD, and premature death, can anyone just sit on their hands and be quiet? Shouldn't the council members stand up for the citizens who are impacted by the toxins of the Garden State Parkway? The easy way is for our elected officials and their appointees to sit back and listen to the lobbyists and the benefactors of the Turnpike Authority without further standing up to the bureaucrats within the state and the town governments. The governor, the council members, and the mayor fought for the responsibility to protect the citizens and to lead the community against the powerful swamp creatures that entrench themselves into the citizens' paid positions in the bureaucracies. Every member of our government needs to stand up and speak out against those who harm our residents. Studies of air pollution, which I brought many to you, and other people have as well, studies of air pollution have proven over and over again that these toxins from high-volume traffic areas harm our citizens. With a legacy of autism, asthma, COPD, heart attacks, and premature deaths in the area, the town council members and the mayor should speak up at every opportunity in opposition to the New Jersey Turnpike's reign of terror. There shouldn't be one letter once a year or one study once every 3 or 4 years. An ongoing course of action should be taken immediately. It's been over 5 years since the Turnpike Authority began their assault on the citizens of Brick, and very little has been done to protect the people. Flooded streets, sinkholes, and washed-out homes are all signs of the Turnpike's assault. The hidden dangers as detailed in thousands of air pollution studies, which are the toxins forced into the lungs of children and seniors, are not as visible, but they're even more deadly. Every meeting of the council, every radio talk show, every gathering should be an opportunity for our elected officials to show their support for the citizens who are impacted daily by the deadly assault of the Turnpike Authority. The council, the mayor, and every citizen-funded position should speak out daily to protect our citizens. Various lawsuits should be filed, and a call to action needs to be addressed by government officials. It is time for all to speak out for the lives of Brick residents, and in fact all of the Shore community citizens. With all this in mind, immediate action needs to be taken to get a 14-foot noise, pollution, and safety wall, which needs to be erected in many areas of Brick Township. And along with that wall, the replanting of vegetation, including the trees and the bushes and things like that along the Garden State Parkway roadways, needs to take place. Thank you for your time, but before I finish, when somebody's leaving here, when we do this is about the third or fourth time I haven't addressed it, and people are saying goodbye to everybody, maybe we should have about a minute break, because you started something with that next one, and the first one I didn't really hear what you were talking about, because there was a lot going on back here. Okay, thanks for your time. I yield back 28 seconds.
Next? Yes.
Sam Foster, 108 Chico Drive. I just had a comment to make out of thank you, actually, for Governor Murphy. This is an issue that involves all, as you know, it's happened at the county level. It's something that affects everybody in the county, and that is that Governor Murphy is replacing the current prosecutor, Joe Coronado, with, I believe the man's name is Mr. Bill Heimer. I just wanted to take this opportunity, since I didn't do it at the freeholder meeting, I just wanted to thank Governor Murphy for this appointment, because I believe that the prosecutor's office has not been run properly. There was a problem with Judge Rowe dismissing an indictment against Walter Rosinski because of the misconduct of the prosecutor's office withholding exculpatory evidence. And I've had personal dealings with Mr. Coronado, including this room, when he prosecuted me for a traffic violation, and I can tell you, based upon my personal experiences with him, I don't think very highly of him, and I think that this is a very good appointment by Governor Murphy, and I hope that everybody will support him. I know there's been a lot of talk. I'm on Facebook a lot, and there's a lot of support for Mr. Coronado because we're a Republican-dominated county, but I just want to remind people that do speak highly of him, that drug-related deaths under in the county of Ocean under Mr. Coronado have been in triple digits, as opposed to when his predecessor, when there's only 53 drug-related deaths in the county. And I think that Mr. Bullheimer, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name, but he did make a very good speech when he went for his initial confirmation in the state legislature before the senators, state senators, in which he stated he was going to be devoting 1/3 of his time split between supervising his office, drug prevention program, and prosecutions. And I think that that is what the prosecutor should be. I believe that if we had a prosecutor for the past 5 years who did pay attention to his office, there would not have been so much corruption involved. And I believe that it needs a better person in charge, and I think that Governor Murphy really should be complimented for taking this opportunity to stand up to the people that were lobbying for a return of Joe Coronado, instead appointing somebody, and I think that the governor really is on the right track in making our state a better place for everybody. Thank you.
Yes.
Michelle Spector, 808 Jenny Court. Good evening. We have been coming here about 6 years now, and in that time, we have been bullied, lied to, and brushed off, we the forgotten who live along the parkway, but no more. Because of a disastrous flood, the parkway is front and center once again. We have explained that because of 2 state agencies, several communities are affected. The fault lies with the Turnpike Authority for going along for the ride, the DEP for demanding the center median be raised to the ground to put basins in for purported water quality. They created a problem, a solution for a problem that didn't exist. It's called puddle management. They subsumed authority they never had. They broke the law, and they didn't even follow their own policy. Policies which are dictated by engineering firms who have enjoyed lucrative contracts because of the Parkway Widening Project and the Overpass Project. These detention basins were demanded of the New Jersey Turnpike Authority by the DEP in order to get wetland permits. These detention basins caused the destruction of crucial environment to this area of Brooktown. As a result of the loss of extensive forest, the soil was compressed and no longer soaked up water at the rate of 1 foot an hour. I got that from an Oprah report that we got from them, so I can back that up. There were no trees holding the soil in place and soaking up the water that became a deluge and caused extensive damage in Greenbrier, Burrsville Road, Sutton, and Evergreen Woods and other communities. And Evergreen Woods can say, I told you so. What you need to do is demand another soil porosity study be done, because I can tell you that it's no longer 1 foot an hour. Ask those affected communities and they will tell you it never flooded there. Floods are always the end result when there is deforestation. The study by a special independent engineer that's being conducted, does it include all the communities or just the one community of Greenbrier? Stephen Brill and I looked at the flood photos from the police drone that was done the day of the flood. And we noticed that the water, you could see that it came onto Burrsville Road and it went into one area in Greenbrier where Markham is. We looked at the Google Maps, and the North Fork of the Metedeconk runs right up against Greenbrier near the Markham. We went out and we took pictures, and you can see the Metedeconk there. and it comes right up to where the development is. So what we think happened is, and that's probably what was going around, was that because there was so much deforestation and the soil was compressed, that the sediment clogged up the Matita conch, and it probably backwashed, or I don't know if that's the right word, but it flowed into the community, and they're at the lowest level in the community, so it stayed there. And I think there was one court where it couldn't go anywhere, and it just stayed there. And also, I think there was some damage on Burrsville Road. I know there's a house that they're just going to sell it right now. Anyway, I'm sorry, I lost my place here. Sutton, whatever. We at Evergreens have endured decibel levels of over 87 decibels at all hours, including the wee hours of the morning. We have endured fumes from 8 lanes of unobstructed fumes. Children now have asthma that never did before with no prior history. And now, to top it off, we were flooded very badly as well. What we want to know is, are we going to get the true results of this engineering study, whatever the cause is, and will you insist on a new porosity study in all of the affected areas, and the study include all of the affected areas? And we want to know, when you get the results, what are you prepared to do about it? Because we don't want 8x10 glossies and empty promises. We want results. We are just as important as the Back Bay areas. Thank you.
Next, yes.
Again, if others have forgotten my name also, Nan Call, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard. And there's several comments that were made, and some were before on the resolutions that are in my mind. The mayor mentioned about New Horizons. Well, that was something that was in the works from when I first moved here, and it didn't get done. And there was some story about some endangered snake. And because the people wanted to have a connection from Chambers Bridge to Cedar Bridge that would go right where that property is. Oh, they couldn't. Finally, that was resolved, and there was no problem about an endangered snake. They could do it, but they didn't. And that brings up a question. There was a restaurant that is a Puerto Rican one. There's a sign. Is that, which I can never remember the name. I can remember freaking Puerto Rican that they wanted to have it, and I think would have been better. Is that still in business?
Wapa Canepa, yes.
It is.
Nope, actually,
Be-
no.
No?
Actually, I tried to go there the other day myself, but it was
just there.
it was out of, the sign's down.
At
Sign's
least
down.
3 times within the past couple of months, I have gone to get it, and the doors are closed.
Yeah,
There's
what-
no sign of life. There was no sign. The sign now says Puerto Rican. That Weepanema or whatever it is.
Yeah, the Wepa Canepa signs down, and one of their problems was what they would do is they would make enough food. They never knew how to judge how much food.
I don't want to hear that because this is my time.
Okay.
I'm asking, is it still open for business? It's probably still on the Buy and Brick business card.
It was never in Buy and Brick.
Don't ask me anything.
No, I thought it was one of them.
No.
And I also would like to know, and that can be done in a press release, how many apartments there, or units, as it should be phrased, have been sold or rented, or whatever the terminology. I hear that there's a lot of vacancy in that building, and that was supposed to be a 55 and older community, and a law was changed in the state of New Jersey that said if they could prove that the market wasn't there for buying those units, they could change it, and they did. So that's how it got that way. The Greenbrier flooding in Markham. If you look at a map of Greenbrier, you will see that as you go, if you think of Burrsville at that point as east-west, which is my head thinks of it, you will see that right beyond Markham, there is a little tiny rounded shape Robinson. Well, I remember a number of years ago, earlier in this century, they had a big problem with a flooded home in a depression and pictures of somebody standing in the depression, mostly because this town has never managed to keep the associations maintaining their grading and drainage. So it's not the first time that there was a problem along there, but it didn't happen as much as this one, which was. And then as far as the changes made by the Turnpike Authority, which wasn't involved in the changes originally, it was just the Garden State, and then somehow the state saw fit to combine them. Coming tonight, I was in the wrong lane, and there was a lot of traffic, and the weather, as you know, is very bad. So instead of making that stupid jug handle turn off of Burnt Tavern to get on to the Lanes Mill on the far side, I went straight. And again, that is the most confusing situation because they took away going straight from Herborn to Greenbrier 2, which was a mistake. And I went to last Friday, I went down to the Ocean County engineer and looked at the original plan, and basically, yes, on cardboard, big sheets, and I got paper copies of the as-built, it shows that the plan didn't change very much except for the ramp that goes across the Sovereign Bank property. But what did come out of that was you don't see the nuances on this. Even my paper copy, which had more detail than the original plan as presented in 2007, it doesn't show that the traffic light is now on a cement slab. So when a car goes out of control or makes the mistake of trying to come across, they're going to hit the curb instead of having a flattened area or an area that could have that removed. It's an absolute disgrace. And we've got to change this attitude of everybody doing their own thing and blaming it on the others. We've got to insist that the townships coordinate, with the county and then with the state, whether they want to call it the Garden State Parkway or the Turnpike Authority. We have to have everybody who's affected by a traffic change. And you look at what's happened, if you like me, and you ride across County Line Road, Lanes Mill it's really called, as you turn off Lanes Mill, heading over to Jackson, and then it's called County Line Road. It is built out to the very corner and leaving no place for bicycles, for pedestrians, and yes, that's Lakewood. But if we don't start working together and safeguarding, we're going to be in worse trouble than we were with Florence.
Yes.
Richard Gross, 29 Greenbrier Boulevard. A problem has developed behind my house. At 5 o'clock, I went out to start my grill, and there I killed 2 very, very large deer ticks. Now, according to the newspaper and recording, no, they're big ones. They're not, no, these were nice size. They grew up. Anyhow, the point basically is this. We have a lot of deer behind my house. And according to the newspaper and the radio, they say that New Jersey is loaded with deer and deer ticks. I don't know if there's anything that we can do about it, but it scares me to go outside and walk around my house with the potential of being bitten. Is there anything that we can do?
I believe that's your association that would have to do that.
You could spray for ticks in your yard.
You can spray for ticks?
Actually, you should ask Mr. Finelli, because he's the hunter. And he could take care of this problem for us.
I did not know I could spray that whole big area because of all the deer that are back there. I mean, we have sometimes herds of 7, 8, 9 deer floating around back there.
They float.
They're floating. They're walking around, running around, along with the
That was a good question.
along with the turkeys. Wild
Maybe
turkeys.
if you got flea and tick collars, put them on the.
I think he said there was 8 deer that are floating in his backyard. You sure it's
Thank
not
you, Mr.
December?
Paul Mobilo?
Thank you, Mr. Gross.
Okay, this is a problem. Hopefully, nobody else gets bitten, or nobody gets
No,
bitten.
it is bad, but they do make a spray. I don't know how
I don't know how far it works.
how well it works or whatever. They do make some.
I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you can do anything, Mr. Mobilo, do it. Thank you.
I'll see if I can rein in the floating deer.
The
I'll
eight-
see Santa. He might
the
be looking
8
for
floating
something.
reindeer. Yes.
Clayton Pettershek, again, 588 New Jersey Ave. I wasn't going to say this before because it was kind of know-it-all, but your question actually kind of brought this up. The some snake that was referred to earlier, I believe, is the eastern ringneck snake, which was added onto the endangered species list sometime in the late 80s. It is about the size of a worm. Its primary food source is actually larval insects, mosquitoes, ticks.
Just bring them to Greenbrier then.
Floating deer?
Yeah. No.
No floating deer, just ticks. Okay.
It's the size of a worm. I used to catch them in my friend's backyard all the time, even though that's technically illegal.
Illegal.
But yeah, so its current population is like less than 5 figures in the state of New Jersey. So worrying about that, some kind of snake, is a big deal in dealing with the ticks. And by the way, if the tick was that size, it was a pregnant female, which is a Lyme's disease carrier. So be cautious, check for ticks, and there are pesticides you can use for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Roxanne Jones. I live on West Princeton Avenue. First of all, I'm very glad that you've addressed the building of so many gas stations and whatnot in Brick, because it's just getting out of control, in my opinion. Like right now, we have a situation on Jack Martin and Route 88 where they're proposing a 16-pump Wawa gas station along with a store and a few other businesses, and that's just going to cause more traffic problems than you can shake a stick. Now, I was at the planning meeting and I was told that the traffic concerns were basically something that would have to go before the county officials and the state officials, because those were county roads and state roads. And I and several other concerned citizens are pursuing things along those lines. And my question is, can't you as a government get more control over what gets built here and approving what gets built here? Because it appears that all you have to do is just say, hi, this is a legal thing that fits the zoning, and that's it, you know? I mean, I'm all for economic development, but, you know, you have to take consideration things like safety and, of course, the quality of life. Yes, we buy things here, and we do need gasoline, we need restaurants, we need daycare, but there's only so much space left. And also, we should also consider that there's a definite need for affordable housing here. And I'll be honest with you, I feel that I approve of this latest venture with selling the land to the nonprofits. I mean, the nonprofits, they do a good job of handling these things. And like I said, we need more of these things. We need more affordable housing. We don't need a bunch of condos. We don't need more multifamily housing on top of, you know, commercial places. We need to be very conscious of where we build, what we build. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, yes.
Two quick questions. and then I'll tell you about ticks if you want to know.
You don't have to.
At one of the computer sites, I saw that we hired 3 new police officers recently and promoted a sergeant. 2 questions. One, are they net bodies or are they replacements? And number 2, we normally do that at town council meetings. Why didn't we do that this time?
Yeah, net number's the same. Sergeant was promoted, and 3 new ones. No, I don't know if you said 4. 3, okay. And then, what was the second question? Oh, because the academy was starting, so we... Why wasn't that on the council
Are
meeting?
they net bodies or are they
Net.
replacing?
They are net. Okay.
They're replacing.
The net number's staying the same, so they're replacing the old ones, yes.
Okay.
The retired.
It's staying the same.
Okay.
And then
Make me feel
the,
better.
it wasn't done on the council meeting because the academy was starting, and our council meetings.
Oh, after you answered the first question, you didn't have to answer the second one. Okay, 2 minutes about ticks.
Oh, no. You don't have to, Mr.
No,
Finelli. We got
for
you.
general public, come on, 2 quickies.
We got you, Mr. Finelli.
If it's a big tick, it's a wood tick, it's not a deer tick.
Yes.
Second of all, deer ticks don't breed on deer, they breed on white-footed mouse, all right? Third, the only thing that eats them is guinea hens, so if you allow him to get some of those guinea hens and put them in his yard, they'll eat the ticks.
Okay.
Other than that, wear light clothing and buy some spray from Dick's or something, and that takes care of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, anybody? Yes.
Rob Canfield, 423 Malibu Way. Did I hear we're having venison next time? Just checking, because I'll be here. So last time I was up here, I had asked a question. Things kind of went the way I wasn't expecting at all for it to go. And it left me with a quandary. What do I do afterwards? Do I come in here, put the podium like this, look Mr. Starkey in the eye, hello, sir, and question, or do I come in and just say, you know what, things didn't go the way I wanted them to, but I forgive anyone involved and I forgive you for the way it went and for being cut off. And then I was going to say something else entirely, and it just kind of floated away. Yes. Gotta love these long meetings, don't you? Yep, it's gone. It's gone. So thank you, everyone, for your time. Yet again, thank you for your service, and thank you as well.
Anybody else? Seeing none, close public. Mrs. Bergen.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Yes, thanks. The one resident asked about whether or not we can limit what's built in certain places. So I talk about this a lot on Facebook Live because the question comes up more so there than here. When you drive around and you see trees around our town, with the exception of our parks and then down the end of Manilokan Road where there's the wildlife preserve, somebody owns where those trees are, right? So just like if you own a house, not everybody owns a house, but some people own houses. So if you own a house, you own that house for a reason, probably, 1, to live in, and 2, you bought a house instead of renting a house, maybe because you want to make money in it and it wants to be something for you at the very end when you sell it, right? So you're trying to make money on that property. That's not the number one reason, obviously. Number one is to have your family and everything else. So just like that person who buys the house wants to make money on their house, the people who buy property with trees on it wants to make money at some point. So as a town, we can't zone something parkland or do not disturb or something like that. We basically can zone it 3 things. One is warehouse, which is very small, industrial. In our town, it's actually 1 road. Most people don't even know where it is, our industrial park. 2 is retail, a business, and 3 is residential. So residential is houses. Now in that residential zone, there's all sorts of different R15s and all these different numbers and letters, and it really comes down to like the size of the lot and things like that. And the business, there's B1s and B2s and all these Bs with numbers after it, and again, it's the type of businesses that are allowed and the amount of space and all that stuff. So really everything in Brick that you see that is trees is either zoned houses or businesses. That's the easiest way to say it. So we can't zone something park unless we buy it, of course. And that's kind of, what the old prior administration got into trouble with spending all those millions of dollars on Traders Cove. Back in the old days, it was great. There was all these grants. So back, we acquired our beaches, our oceanfront beaches, because that was grant money. Windward Beach Park, that whole big park, that was grant money. Those grants don't exist anymore. It's a different time here in New Jersey. So if there was Green Acres acquisition money, I'd be more than happy to keep our trees. Unfortunately, there isn't that acquisition money. Our Green Acres money that we apply for is always used to update our parks. So we're updating Bernie Cook Park next, and part of that is going to be Green Acres grant money. But the acquisition money is not there. So again, you're back to the quandary of houses or business. It has to be zoned one or the other, and it kind of goes in tune of what else is around. So we're not going to take, in a neighborhood, you're in a neighborhood street and say, okay, these couple lots are business. Obviously, they'll all be residential. And the same thing out on Route 70 and all. It's going to be business. So you drive around, you see trees. Those trees are probably going to become something at some point. The reason why, whoever owns it wants to make money. So either they're owning it to sell it to somebody to build something, or they're holding on to it themselves and they're waiting until a good time when the market's good and everything else to build something. And that's what comes down to zoning. So that everything is zoned. Every group of trees you see is zoned. Houses, except for parks and the wildlife preserve, are zoned houses or businesses. And now there's different things that have to happen around it. You want to jam too much stuff into a spot and things like that. The boards can say stuff with, but a lot of times it's zone business. We're kind of stuck. There's other things like away from how many parking spots you have, and if it's far enough away from the road and things like that that can control the size, but they can't control the use. In our town, we've passed ordinances. Really, two businesses that I'm aware of. One is porn shops. So we have one that's been grandfathered in. They passed it back in like 84, 85, something like that. And the one that exists on Chambers Bridge Road was already here. So they're allowed to stay until they go out of business. Once they go out of business, they're gone. And the other and that's because there's a neighborhood need for that type of thing. And then the other is puppy mills. So again, there was a need. There was a health need for that. So I was on the council. I think I was on the council. No, I was on the council when we had the first problem with the first puppy mill. And then we passed, we had one that was here, and it was grandfathered in. And it was grandfathered in until they really did something bad, and then we were able to shut them down. And now there's none left, and there never will be another left. But both of those things have like a greater good need, and that's why you're able to do it. Where other things are, you can't just say, you know what, there's too many pizza places, I'm going to stop pizza places. Or there's too many nail salons, or too many, all these things that everybody, people complain about. There's too many of them around town. You can't do that, and it would actually be, there could be some abuse of discretion. Like, let's say I have relatives that own pizza places, and I, decide, hey, let's pass the thing to ban pizza places. So there's reasons for it, and it's really called the market. So the market determines what people want and what stays in business. For example, the one resident said there's a Puerto Rican restaurant that went out of business. Well, maybe people didn't want Puerto Rican food. Or maybe, as I was saying before, what happens is they would cook food and then not have enough, and they would close as soon as they were done with the food. They wouldn't cook more food. So it could be 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and if there was a bunch of police officers that went there and ate, they were out of food by 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the afternoon, and they would just close up and go home. So that was a business model thing, maybe. But for all sorts of reasons, places go out of business, and a lot of it has to do with saturation of the market. And that's a whole financial thing not going to get into, but town council, it's not our job to regulate. Keep government out of the private market. I'm all about that. Let's have 100 pizza places here. They're not all going to stay in business. People are going to eat at the good ones. They're going to keep in business the good ones, right? So it's just the whole philosophy of America. Open up a business. Try to make it. Hopefully you can make it. If you don't make it, you tried. But you can see here in Brick, people think we're a great community and they want to keep on opening businesses here. And that's just because we're so vibrant and we have such great citizens. And our market for businesses is great, and that's why all the empty places are filling up and you don't see them around anymore. And that's, a lot of businesses like to build new, and that's why they're knocking down trees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Starkey?
Nothing for me tonight.
Thank you.
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Hartman? Councilwoman Zapsik?
Thank you, Council President. I would like to congratulate Colleen and Maya and thank them for the event that they produced, and also thank them for their kind words. I was really a very small part of it, but it was actually Good Friday this year. I remember because I was off from my job at the time, and that I sat down with Colleen and Maya and their moms, and I had never met either of the girls before, and what I met was two young ladies, two residents with a lot of passion for animal causes who wanted to do something good for Brick Township, and we kicked around some ideas, and then just by chance came across an article online about doggy Narcan kits, and then they were off and running with it. So it was really, really neat for me to see the event kind of grow and morph and become, and really see them take charge of it. And it was a beautiful event, and the fact that they raised so much money for a first try was really very inspiring. So I thank them for that on behalf of our canine officers and on behalf of all of Brick Township, because it's really it's really what we hope to and aspire to in our young people. On Columbus Day, October 8th, BMAC will be holding its annual golf tournament at Eagle Ridge Country Club. There's still room for golfers. There's still sponsorships available. At the last meeting, we approved a resolution to have the CFO insert our grant into the budget. That grant carries with it a 25% cash match. So we get about $40,000 a year in grant money, so we're obligated to match that with about $10,000 in cash. And rather than have that included in the municipal budget and have the taxpayers assume responsibility for that, we raise that money through the golf tournament. So if you are interested at all in sponsoring or playing golf with us that day, you can give Madeline in the Recreation Department a call at 732-262-1076. And I will say that when it comes to raising money, Madeline is shameless, and she will be very happy to separate you from your money and have you join us in some way, shape, or form on Columbus Day. One of the programs that we fund through BMAC is called the Youth Prevention Coalition, and these are youth-led, peer-to-peer programs in our 4 secondary schools, the 2 middle schools and the 2 high schools. And today I had the opportunity through my job to attend the New Jersey Spotlight Conference on the opioid epidemic at the George Street Playhouse on the Rutgers campus. And we had 4 students from Brick Township, 2 from Brick Memorial and 2 from Brick High School, who spoke in a panel discussion. And first of all, the event was the keynote speaker at the event was the New Jersey Attorney General. And there were a lot of very high-profile people. The event was co-sponsored by our W.J. Barnabas Health, the Horizon New Jersey Foundation, and the New Jersey School. I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget, New Jersey School Development Council, which is made up of school superintendents throughout the state. So our students from Brick Township, our 4 high school students, basically put together a panel discussion where they talked to people in the audience, school superintendents, executives in healthcare and the insurance industry, and government, and the trustees, board of trustees of the George Street Playhouse, and educated them on the risk and protective factors that are predictors of future youth problem behavior. So I was very, very proud of our students. It was a great day for Brick Township to be represented at a statewide event, and that's just a small example of one of the things that are funded through our grant, our BMAC grant. And that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Halloran.
Thank you, Council President. Again, I would like to thank Colleen and Meyer for their outstanding work to help support our police K-9 unit. Those two seem to be a great team for getting events together and producing successful events, really. So I really wanted to thank them. They do a great job. Just a quick note, I was participated in the Ma Deuce Deuce event that took place on Saturday. This is, if you recall, we passed this event a couple weeks back. This is the event that recognizes and tries to bring awareness to the 22 veterans per day that commit suicide. So there was 255 people who did the walk, many younger people who walked with the packs that at the same weight that a typical soldier would carry in battle. It was amazing how far they walked, and fortunately it wasn't too hot of a day, but it was a long walk for them. And I helped with, we had a refreshment stand that they could stop and rest and get some beverages and get some fruit and a little bit of nourishment before they turned around and went back to the starting point. But it was quite a wonderful sight to see all these people supporting this great effort. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Council Vice President Crate.
Okay. As Colleen's mom, I usually refrain from, I usually don't say anything because, you know, that was Colleen and Maya's
Go
event,
ahead.
and they worked really hard to bring it all together. And I will say that those girls went out, and I was with her, so I saw it. They went business to business, door to door, and really worked very hard. And it was, she had said in her little speech that she's humbled by all the people that she was able to meet and learn from, and I've seen her grow through the experience. So as a mom, I am very excited that she had the opportunity to do that, and she's already planning next year, so just to let you know. And she has some big ideas, so you know, both girls are very excited, and it was really nice that they had a chance to present the check tonight, and they were very happy to do that. So thanks for everybody's support and letting us work together to make that happen. The other thing that I just want to mention is the deadline for the photo contest is October 1st, which is quickly approaching. We are really hoping to have a good turnout for that. Sorry. It's a great opportunity for people of all ages. We sent home to the schools to let the kids know that they could participate too. And just to let you know, all you need to do are submit your 5 favorite photos of anything that you've done here in Brick. And they don't even have to necessarily be a recent photo. It can be photos throughout the years in Brick Township. As long as you're a resident of Brick and you'd like to share those photos with us, we're going to have a gallery night at Civic Plaza on October 18th, featuring all of the photos that are submitted. You can contact the Recreation Office, or you can go online and register for this event. It's free to register. Anyone can participate. Both of my children and my husband are submitting photos along with me, and I encourage everybody on council to do the same, because you know, this is our town, and I'm proud to live here, and I'm proud to be a resident, and I do brag about all of the great things that we have here in Brick, and my friends come here from other towns because we have such great things. So this is our opportunity to kind of show off what we have, and the gallery night on the 18th really has potential to be a fun night for the residents to come together and see what great things we have to offer here. So I hope you participate, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilman Mumolo.
Yes, congratulations, Colleen and Maya, great job, keep up the good work. Good to see little entrepreneurs in the town. I'm glad the council passed the sale with NCR tonight. This will benefit the residents of the facility. And Columbus Day Parade will be October 7th at 1 p.m. in Seaside Heights. Hope to see everybody down here. That's it for me. Thank you.
Councilman Fosman.
Thank you. Last council meeting, I brought up about the senior busing. We have committee meetings, and every committee meeting there's 3 council people. In order to move something ahead, you have to have the majority of the committee move anything ahead, such as senior busing or whatever. So on March 18th of 2014, the senior busing was denied out of the committee. I have the minutes right here. I have all the studies that were done, and now it's being done 4 years later, which we could have saved a lot of money. And my next thing is, speaking about committees, I have another committee that I work with. I'm chair of Public Works, and we've been working with that committee for the last last 2 months, and we've been working on an ordinance. And the ordinance is about single-use plastic bags and plastic straws. The state just, Governor Murphy did not pass his because he didn't want any cost for the single-use bag. So my ordinance is would stop all the businesses from using single-use bags and plastic straws in restaurants. And I've been trying to get the attorney to write it up as a draft so we can discuss it more in detail into the committee. But in order to do this as a draft ordinance, so we can get all the proper codes in here, that's what the attorney does. And you have to have the consent of the committee. And I see one committee member's not here tonight, and the other one is, or you can have the mayor or business administrator help move this ahead. So I'm asking one of the committee, any committee member or the mayor or the business administrators to move this for a draft ordinance so we can discuss it further and make it. I made all the changes in here. I sent it out to everybody, and I think this is important. We have 13 other towns move this ahead. Other towns do styrofoam. They ban a lot of things. I just want to move this ordinance ahead. So anybody want to move this ordinance ahead so we can get a draft in at least?
We're on public comments, so
I guess not.
that is
I guess
not the appropriate
This
time
is, this
for action.
is, this is a caucus. Aren't we just supposed to discuss things? Just because it's my comments, I can say what I want, and I want to bring this up, and I think
you
it's
have.
very important. And the mayor, I guess he doesn't want to move ahead, Joanne doesn't want to move ahead, and I guess any committee members don't want to move ahead with this.
Mayor and Joanne.
Actually, can I speak then?
Yes, because that's what the attorney told me. To move it ahead, you have to have those people. That's what the councilman told me.
So the way it was left at the last land use committee was that they were going to wait, and it was going to reconvene to the not land use, Public Works Committee, and it would reconvene. I would show you those minutes, but unfortunately, those minutes don't exist. And can you tell us why those minutes don't exist, Mr. Fosman?
Why?
Yes.
I didn't record those minutes.
So what Mr. Councilman Fosman does is he takes the recorder of the minutes, right? The
I
tape.
didn't record those minutes, Mayor.
Are you speaking or not speaking?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I'll speak after you.
Yes, so the meeting before that at the Public Works Committee, we had our business administrator attend, and she takes handwritten minutes. Included in those handwritten minutes were the fact that Councilman Fosman says that our sustainable brick committee is useless. So those minutes never got approved because they have to be approved by the chairperson of that committee. The second, Ms. Bergen said, I'm not going to take minutes from now on, and the agreement was that minutes would then be verbatim. Verbatim minutes would then be prepared by the council secretary. In order to do that, you need a tape recorder, tape and a tape recorder. The next Public Works Committee meeting happens, and at the end of that meeting, the chairman takes the tape recorder home with him. All right? So now, we don't have township property, it's missing, there's no permission, there's no actually request to take that township property home. He did take it home. And probably as he's writing one of his letters to the editor that dealt with transparency, at the same time he was probably writing that, I think he had his finger on the delete button on that tape recorder, because when it was returned to our council secretary, the tape was blank. And that's why there's no minutes that we can say, Councilman Fosman, you were supposed to come back and we were going to reconvene at a Public Works Committee. I can't show you those minutes because those minutes do not exist.
And maybe I didn't I pushed the record button just like the council secretary said to do, and if there's no minutes on there, there's no minutes on there. I can't help it. What am I going to do? I handed it to her. Was there anything on there? No. So it was
4 days later, you
oversight.
handed it to her.
was
You
an
took it
oversight.
home. You took it home with you for 4 days.
Yeah. She wasn't around. The meeting was closed.
Okay.
I just want to make sure. So
Okay.
he took the tape recorder home by accident. I just want to make sure that's on the record.
I brought it home, and I brought it back to Jen. I don't know. A couple days later? I don't know. But anyway, another thing I want to bring up, Brick Township Committee meetings. We have a lot of meetings all the time. I just want to give you a rundown of the meetings and how it occurs. We have Business of Finance, Land Use, BMAC, we have Traders Cove, Trap and Neuter Release. That's another story. Public Safety, Public Works, Redevelopment, Recreation. And that's all in 2012. There was 94 committee meetings in 2012. Now in 2013, there was 81. 2014, 74. 2015, there was 56. 2016, 33. 2017, 20. And as of today, 2018, there's been 19 committee meetings. That's how well they dwindled. So you can't, what happens is, when we got elected in 2012, everybody went back and got the minutes from all the committee meetings to find out what was being done, what people did, and that's what you do. You find out what's going on in town by committee meetings. And when there's no committee meetings, you can't find out what's going on because you're not on the committee. As of 2015, 15, I was only put on 2 committees. I was put on Chair of Public Works and Public Safety. That's 16. I was put on, in 16, I was on 2 committees. 17, same 2 committees. And every year it dwindled down, so you can't get information. And if anybody needs that, I have that right here. And that's what's occurring in this town, and it's not right. We should be able to have committee meetings and have minutes.
Can I add a comment or respond? I just want to point out that I am on the Public Works Committee, and the last time we did meet, we did discuss the ordinance. We talked about making changes to the original draft.
Yep.
And you sent out those changes to us.
Yep.
On September 20th, and in your email, you noted that if we had any questions to email you. And then you said we would have the opportunity to go over this draft ordinance in time to meet at our next committee meeting, which has not been set yet.
I sent back all the changes
Yes,
that
you
were
did.
in that
So-
committee.
And I'm
And
just
I
pointing
gave it
out-
to you, just like we get a
Yes,
council.
my point is that
We get a
your
council.
Please let her
email
speak.
noted that we would discuss it at the next committee meeting, not at the next council meeting.
We get a council package at Friday at 3 o'clock. I mailed that, I sent that out. If you had any questions, why wouldn't you email me and say, I
I'm
have a
not
question
saying I have
about
questions, I'm telling you that you
You have
said we
enough
would.
time here in
you-
Township to go Friday at 3 o'clock all the way to Tuesday to get your answers for a whole agenda here. But we can't do it from September 20th?
No, that's not my point. My point is that you said that we would discuss the ordinance at our next committee meeting.
I sent the ordinance out with all the changes.
Yes, I understand
So
that.
just like you get an agenda, you read your agenda, you study it, you say, okay, that's
I don't
good.
have any
Every- all the
questions.
changes
My
are-
point is, I don't understand why you're asking me to vote
I'm
on it
asking
this
for a
evening
draft ordinance.
when we haven't gotten together.
A draft ordinance. You know what a draft ordinance?
I understand what
Okay,
a
that's
draft
what it
ordinance
is.
is, yes.
What
I
happens
also
is you get all
understand
the
what you're
legal-
stating
all
here,
the
so
legal-
I just wanted to clear
all
up
the
that
legal laws in this town
those
have
of
to
us
be
on the
applied to
committee
this.
Mr.
are willing
Fosman.
to work with you. We
Would you-
are willing to work with you. You
Stop
have not
being-
set a new committee meeting date for us to
Please.
get together.
Please.
And you're the chair of the committee, so once you set that meeting, we'll happily sit down with you again to go over proposing the draft ordinance.
Thank you. Now to my comments. Buy and Brick, we have a new merchant, CO2YA, and they are a CO2 delivery, refills, and exchanges, and that is a 5% rebate. You can go to them for any CO2 paintball or cylinders for the soda streams, anything like that, for any kind of refills. On October 11th, at the Brick Senior Center, which is the VFW on Adamson Road, is the Senior Health and Wellness Fair. So if you would like to go, there's going to be Meridian there and all kinds of different vendors throughout the county that you'll be able to see what their services offer for you. Also, Trunk or Treat is coming up. Trunk or Treat is, we have it at at Drum Point Road, and it's where Drum Point Sports Complex, and everybody comes and we can decorate all the trunks, the council and mayor.
We're going to have an amazing trunk again this year.
Councilwoman Crate is outdoing herself, as usual. with the trunk, and the kids go trick-or-treating. But Recreation is accepting donations because it's very expensive for a lot of the trunks. I mean, we have multiple people that donate the bags of candy for our one trunk. These are single families that decorate and do a phenomenal job on their trunk, and we don't expect them to buy like $500 or $600 worth of candy like all of us buy combined. So we ask everybody to please bring donations of bagged candy to our Recreation office in Civic Plaza. Also, you'll notice we have our gold ribbons on, and some of us have gold on and whatnot. That is in support of the recognizing the childhood cancer awareness. So gold, again, we're asking everybody to wear gold on September 27th, especially the schools. And about our council committees, we ask a lot of questions just in general. We email and we talk to our professionals, and we understand what's going on. And if you're going to judge the effectiveness of our municipal government by the amount of meetings that we have, you know, we're in trouble. We need to be effective, and we need to use our time wisely, which is why we proactively go and we sit and schedule meetings with our business administrator. I'm talking to our council secretary, asking what's on the agenda next. If I have any questions, I'll email or call the township attorney. It's what we do. We have to be effective and proactive with our time and with our township money. So with that, I want to thank again Colleen and Maya for the outstanding job that they did. I went to the event. It was really fun. It was great to see all the different police officers and all of the canines, and they really did a great job, and I can't wait till next year to see what they can come up with. And with that, I'd like to wish Mr. Starkey and Miss Bergen a very happy birthday, and our next scheduled council meeting is on Tuesday, October 9th at 7 p.m. Motion to adjourn? All in favor?